This conference will now be recorded.
Good morning, everybody that's in person and online. Unfortunately, we do not have a quorum in person, and this was an in-person meeting. We will still go through the agenda, but there will be no action taken on any items until such time somebody does show up and we have a quorum present. It is 9:36 a.m. Right now, I'll open the floor for public comment, which is agenda item 2. Do we have anybody in person that would like to speak? Anybody online? Seeing none, we will move to agenda item 3, which is the staff update. In your pack, that is pages 8 through 10 in your packet. And on the screen, you will see the upcoming K-Tempo meetings, the bike ped meeting March 8th, the policy board meeting March 16th, and then following meetings. Just an FYI, the May 4th and 18th meetings may need to be rescheduled due to conferences and trainings for staff. As those dates are decided upon, we will let everybody know if those changes need to be made. Those are scheduled to all be in-person meetings. As I mentioned, the past few meetings, K-Tempo will be undergoing our federal certification review in the spring. We're still waiting on some information from Federal Highways so we can get that information submitted to them. But we have to go through this every 4 years. So the Secretary of Transportation can certify our MPO. We have some administrative amendments, the D4502 project, the D4501 project, the T4013A project, and T4518 project. Those were all let date changes. And then the air quality readings were 59 and 58 parts per billion. And with that, I will open for any questions on the staff update. Okay, moving right along. Agenda item 4 would typically be an action item. Is there any feedback on any of the meeting minutes from the last meeting or any revisions that need to be made? We will bring this action item back to you at the next meeting. Seeing none, okay. We'll move to agenda item 5, which is pages 16 through 20 in your packet. This was originally scheduled to be a discussion and action item. Will only be discussion today. And this is regarding approval of the draft FY 23-26 Transportation Improvement Program and initiation of public involvement pending TXDOT's review. As you'll see in your packet and on the screen, this is for the development of our upcoming TIP, the FY 23-26. We currently have the, is it 21 to 24. So this is programming the 2 years after that. You'll see the schedule of events on the screen. And in your packet, we are at the March 2nd date, which would be for TAC to recommend approval. And we do have a quorum now, correct, James? Yes. And we do have a quorum now. So this can be an action item. The action needed would be to recommend approval of the FY 23-26 TIP and initiation of public involvement process. As you'll see on the next page, this is kind of what we spoke of last month, and then we had a workshop to kind of determine how the next projects would be funded for the TIP, depending on funding and readiness. At the workshop, there was a general consensus that the alternative 3 that you see in your packet would be the recommended outcome of that workshop. Do you have any additional input, James, on that? Or would you like to add anything?
I would just say this is what came out, or what staff felt the general consensus was, and these 4 projects would be added to the TIP in years FY25 to 26. Just for, I think everyone knows, but we can always we always revise the TIP in the future. And so there could be more projects added to the TIP depending on funding availability. But this is a start for us to get some projects on the, at least going forward for FYs 25 and 26.
And Ryan, would it be too late for us to go ahead and approve the minutes in item number 4?
Yeah, we'll go right back to that, right after this item. Are there any questions on the funding alternative in person on the screen?
I'd like to say, Ryan, thanks for pulling the team together and helping us kind of step through the discussion, and thanks to our colleagues from around the area for coming to that meeting and being part of that conversation. I really appreciate that. I'm sure how grateful we are for that. So with that, I'll make a motion that we approve this alternate.
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second. Are there any other questions, further discussion? Is there anybody online, James, that would like to say anything?
No, I don't see.
Seeing none, I will, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say aye. No opposition. Thank you, everybody. Since we do have a quorum, we will go back to agenda item 4 really quick, which is pages 12 through 14, which is an action item regarding approval of the minutes from the February meeting. Are there any comments or questions on the minutes? Seeing none, I will entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to February 2, 2022.
Second.
I do have a motion and a second. Any further? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? All right. Fantastic. Okay.
Ryan,
Yes, sir.
I just have one more comment on the TIP. This is what we have. I think I sent it out last night. That's just a draft version. Once TPP has reviewed the TIP, we'll be bringing back a final version for TAC review and approval. There's some missing information in the version that we sent out, but the project listing is correct. And I think that's the main part of the TIP. So if you notice anything in your review or something looks off, please let staff know. It's not a final version and it won't be until May. So.
Thank you, James. Okay, agenda item 6. Agenda item 6 is a discussion and action item regarding resolution 2022-03 supporting the Hill Country Transit District's transit asset management state of good repair performance measures for the region, which is pages 22 through 24. The transit asset condition performance rule, which is in 49 CFR, establishes performance measures to assess the condition of regional transit networks. Hill Country Transit evaluates all their assets annually using state of good repair ratings and their benchmark, and they have, and we, K-Tempo, traditionally have adopted their their transit asset management state of good repair performance measures for the K-Tempo region, as they are the transit provider. Do you have anything to add, Daryl?
Yeah, I just wanted to really explain one page out of here. This is all tied to state of good repair grant, and the Transit Asset Management Plan, or TAM, I'm sorry for short, is how we document all of the condition of all of our vehicles and all of our facilities and just assets in general. The way this process works, every year we go through all of our assets, we grade them on a grading scale and determine things like their age and their condition and et cetera. We plan on when to replace, let's just say the vehicles. We plan on when to replace vehicles and auction off the oldest or the ones that are in worse condition and make plans to buy new buses to replace them. If you would, that packet that was sent out, if you'll turn to page 13, this is the main thing I kind of wanted to express on this. This is all standard. We do this every year. We go through all of our goals and objectives and generally meet all of them. In this case, though, on page 13, this is kind of a summary, if you will, of our targets and the fact that we did not meet some of those goals. I wanted to explain why. If you look at page 13 and the colored lines on the bottom, you've got the blue line, which is total rolling stock. You'll notice on the far right there, you'll see our categorical target is equal to or less than 30%. What that means is we try to maintain our vehicles in a way that at least 70% of them are within their what's called their useful life benchmark. So take a fixed route bus. It's a 12-year, it's rated for 12 years, 500,000 miles. We try to get rid of them at the end of that life. But you'll see the rolling stock in this case, our actual was 43.7%. It's actually exceeded its useful life. The reason for that is one of the things that we're all struggling with. It's the supply chain issue. We have buses ordered. We ordered them about a year and a half ago. They were supposed to be here in no later than December, but really in the fall, but it got extended to December. And now it's been extended yet again. So we're holding on to old buses that we normally would auction off, waiting on the new buses to show up. And we're still getting extended dates. It's still going to be months before we get those new buses. And this problem, the supply chain issue, is becoming so difficult. We're talking to the manufacturers, and numbers that we're getting now from them is that if we were to order a bus today, we wouldn't get it for 2 years. Normally, it's about a 6 to 9 month process. Now they're projecting 2 years out. And of course, going with that, the cost of those buses are going up significantly, at least 30% increase. And that's just what they're telling us now. So anyway, with rolling stock, that's the reason that goal was not met. Total maintenance equipment, which includes our shop equipment, et cetera, the same exact issue is going on there. Our goal was equal to or less than 30%. Actually, 57.1% of that equipment has exceeded its useful life, and it's primarily because we just can't get replacement parts for things like wheel balancing machines and whatnot. And then our buildings are in great shape. They're just not that old, so those are still 0%. None of those have exceeded their useful life. So I wanted to point that out, and that it's a good grade card. The system does work. Unfortunately, because of pandemic and supply chain issues, it's hitting us. I wanted to explain why.
Okay, thank you.
Daryl,
Yes.
so the benchmark you said was 12 years or 500,000 miles.
For fixed route buses.
But if anybody's taking care of their own personal vehicle, take care of it, it'll last a while. And you guys take care of your stuff.
We do.
I know because I've been to your meetings. So regardless of the fact if they're over either of those benchmarks, in terms of actual drivability condition, are you guys running the rest of the buses together?
Most of them are still running. We do have a great maintenance department. The mechanics do a great job. with the new information we got of a 2-year window, we actually are kicking around talking to TXDOT and FTA about whether we can use some of the state of good repair money to refurbish some of our older buses. It is possible to put new engines in. I mean, they're pushing 500,000 miles.
Right.
But they're still running, but they're not going to run forever. In fact, I had a meeting yesterday where we got 3 of them that are on their last breath. So those would be the first 3 that we would put into a refurbishment program where we would put rebuilt engines in them. If it needs a transmission, we put in a transmission, et cetera. We wouldn't trade out everything, but we would do everything we could to extend that life of that bus and possibly get another 250,000 miles out of it or so. And then hopefully when we do auction them off, we'll make a little more money on the auction. So it's a tough game. We're walking a tightrope on several of these buses, but fortunately we've got some good mechanics that are working late hours and keeping up with it. Did I answer your question?
Yes, sir.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you, sir. Like I said earlier, this is an action item. Action needed is to recommend approval of resolution 2022-03 supporting Hill Country Transit District State of Good Repair performance targets for the region. I will entertain a motion.
So moved.
I have a motion
Second.
and a second. Any further questions or discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? All right, that motion carries. Agenda item 7 is a discussion and action item regarding resolution 2022-04, supporting Hill Country Transit District's Public Transportation Agency Safety Plan, the PTASP, targets as the MPO performance targets for the region. Much like the last item, since Hill Country is the transit provider, the MPO typically just adopts their targets as ours for the region. That is pages 26 through 28. And Daryl, would you like to add anything on that?
This one's real short. Again, it's very standard routine. The goals and objectives are basically the same. We're doing an extremely good job on the safety side of things, which is what PTASP is all about, the Public Transportation Agency Safety Plan. This is mandated by FTA, helped implemented through TXDOT, and ultimately we adopt the plan. This particular plan was adopted in, what's the date on it? June 25, 2020. It was due in July of 2020, so we were right on target. Got it adopted by your board, and then between June and July, right in that time frame, because of the pandemic, it was extended a year. So we did our due diligence, we got this adopted, but in reality, we're quite a bit ahead of the game. So we really don't have to re-adopt it until 2020, this summer, actually 2022. However, some of you are aware that we recently hired a new interim general manager. So really, this particular document is exactly the same that we are moving forward with. The most significant change we made in it was just switching Terry Reeves, who was our interim general manager, out for Steve Beck, who is our current new interim general manager. So that's really the primary change. But because of that year back in 2020 and 2021, you'll see us bring this before this group again. We're going to have the board vote on it to get Steve in there March 24th, just coming up later this month. But we will bring it before the board again, probably in September of this year, and do it again. That will put us back on the same timeline as the rest of the state.
Thank you, sir. Any other questions on this item? Seeing none, I will entertain a motion to recommend the approval of Resolution 2022-04, supporting Hill Country Transit District's transit system safety performance targets for the region. So moved. I have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
Did you say? Right, thank you.
Okay, agenda item 8 is a discussion and action item regarding resolution 2022-05, supporting April 22 as National Distracted Driving Month. This is pages 30 to 32, and James?
Yes, thanks, Ryan. This is a resolution that we actually didn't bring before the TAC last year, the new resolution. We brought it before policy board for approval, but this year are getting it in ahead of the month of April. There's a link there in your packet to a website for National Highway Transportation Safety Administration on distracted driving. The data that they have is from a couple years ago, but we will be bringing this back annually because distracted driving safety is important, and I know that TXDOT is really pushing the road to zero, and we've been working on the safety dashboard, so that ties in well, and just want to be a part of everyone's efforts to create a safer transportation system. And this is part of our working towards that. So, yeah, the resolution is just to acknowledge that distracted driving is an issue, and we want to be part of solving that if we can.
Thank you, James. Are there any questions on this resolution? This is an action item to recommend approval of resolution 2022-05, supporting April 2022 as National Distracted Driving Awareness Month. Do I have a motion?
In the title, do we want to add awareness on the motion? It just says National Distracted Driving Month.
Let's see. Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Well, we will make that revision before it's taken to the policy board.
With that change, I'll recommend a motion to approve.
Okay, I do have a motion and a second. Okay, any other questions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? And that carries. Okay, now we are transitioning into our discussion portion of the agenda. Item number 9 is a discussion item regarding the Killeen-Horn presentation on the ACS dashboard. We do have Killeen-Horn in person. They are going to present on a census dashboard tool that they have been working on for the MPO. Last month, they presented on the safety dashboard that they are developing. This is just another one of the dashboard tools that they're assisting with. And with that, I will transfer this over to Killeen-Horn for their presentation on this.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. My name is Dan Malson. I'm the project manager with Killeen-Horn, supporting HCTD dashboards to better understand the data that is being collected in their communities and make decisions on them based on that data. As Ryan had said, we started last month with the safety data tool using the statewide available CRIS data. This month, we want to give a presentation for feedback from the TAC on what we call the ACS data dashboard. So this data that you will be seeing today is all from the United States Census Bureau American Community Survey from the year 2019, 5-year estimates, and with the year ending 2019. So again, the purpose of the presentation today is just to get feedback on this dashboard. Any feedback is welcome. We're happy to take any comments, and we can incorporate those in the coming weeks. With that, I'll turn it over to my partner, Caroline Leonard, who will give a walkthrough of the dashboard.
Hi, everyone. Caroline Leonard. present on the CRIS dashboard, the safety dashboard last month, and today I'm going to be showing you the American Community Survey dashboard. So I'm just going to go over a few basics on how to use the dashboard on this platform. A lot of this is repeated from last time, but just to make sure everybody's up to speed. So the basic setup is we have our tab navigation at the top. We have our filters on the left-hand side, and then on every page you'll see this table that shows which of the census tracts are being displayed on the page, given what the filter status is. So that changes as you filter the page. So now the table updates to only be showing which census tracts are selected. Similarly, if you select just Bell County, the table will list all the census tracts within Bell County. And then there's this clear all filters button on each page to allow you to quickly clear the filters. Another thing to note with the filters is that they do carry over page to page. So if you do select Bell County on one page, the filter will hold for the next page. So the data is separated into four main categories: demographics, economics, housing, and social. And you'll see these four categories up at the top with one main page that shows graphics and a map, and then another page that just shows a map with a little bit more functionality. There's also these two mobility tabs at the end, which are mobility-related data that were pulled from these four different categories, and so I'll go over more specifics at the end. So on the demographics page, we have information about sex, ethnicity, race, and age of the region. So let's say you're interested in the Hispanic breakdown of one of the census tracts. You may select the census tract that you're interested on the map, but this only shows the information in the context of the entire region. So you can hover over this and see that about 2% of the entire region's non-Hispanic population comes from that census tract. But if you wanted to see the breakdown within that census tract, you could come into the census tract filter, search for the county that you're interested in, or the census tract that you're interested in, and you can see the actual breakdown within that census tract. So the next page is the demographics map page. The way these pages are set up is we took the information that we thought would be useful to show in a map format, and we put it in the form of these buttons on the side. So the default view is the total population. The key shows the minimum and maximum within the region, and it's color-coded by lowest to greatest. So you can compare that with the total population 65 and older and see how that changes. We also have the percent of each race represented on the map format. And again, on these pages, you can filter by whichever census tract you're interested in or whichever county you're interested in. The next page, economics, shows information about household and individual income, employment status, health insurance status. So if you're maybe looking at median household income of, say, the census tract, you can hover over and see it at a glance, or you can come in and filter by that census tract and then see the actual income distribution. So now you have the graph of the household income categories for that census tract. The economics map page is similar to the demographics map page, where we have selected characteristics that we thought would be of use to show in a map format. So default view is the total civilian labor force. And you can contrast that with the distribution of the number of families. We also have the percent of different types of income, median household income. And I just wanted to note down here at the bottom on any page that shows dollar values being represented, These are in terms of 2019 inflation adjusted dollars. Just keep that in mind. So next, the housing page shows things like housing units and sizes, rent and home values, and the characteristics of those housing units. So again, if you wanted to see the rent distribution within a certain tract, you could do the same process that I just showed on the other page. But at a glance, you can hover over and see what the median gross rent is. The housing map page defaults to total housing units and that distribution. And then you can maybe see where most of the vacant houses are, or where houses are that lack certain resources like plumbing facilities or kitchen facilities. These are pretty low percentages, but still good to know. So the next page is social. So this page shows things like family and household social characteristics like education level, place of birth, marital status among females and males. And this map page defaults to total households. You can also see the distribution of average household size, or the percent of married family households, for instance. And then the mobility page, like I said, takes information from the other tables in the ACS data and kind of summarizes mobility-related information, not just related to commuting to work, but also disability status within the region. And the mobility map page shows selected characteristics for a map view. So something I like to see on this map is the mean travel time, and how it changes as you're further out from the city versus closer into the city. And you can also see at a glance what the average is for the region. The last page here is city profile. So this is a page that that takes it out of the context of census tracts and puts it into the context of cities and city boundaries, because oftentimes city boundaries don't line up with census tract boundaries. So we wanted to point people to a resource that gives you that information if you are focused on, say, the city of Holland, for example. So you can either select Holland on the map. You could just filter by Holland in the filter, or you can just scroll down into the table and navigate to it and then select this link, and it takes you to the census website data profile for the city or the town of Holland, I guess. So this page has a wealth of knowledge, and it shows data from the same source that we are displaying in the dashboard. So this is just a resource if stakeholders are interested in city information instead of tract information. So that's the dashboard in a nutshell. Is there anything that anybody wants me to revisit?
In a lot of the maps, you have like green on the major roadways. Is that just indicating roadways, or is that actually indicating anything else?
Yeah, good question. I believe that the real-time traffic is being displayed at the
That's what
moment.
I was curious. That's actually real-time traffic.
It is, yeah.
Okay.
And we can change the background to whatever would be most relevant, but that's what's default right now. Any other questions?
Can you go back to the median income, or and maybe did you have like percent poverty or low income? What is the?
Sure, yeah. So we have this part.
Low mod.
What's that?
What's the low mod? That's in a census, so that's a.
I'm not sure about that one.
Okay. That's a HUD. Yeah.
Low to moderate income.
That's
Okay.
moderate.
Yeah, so we have information about the percent of people whose income was below the poverty level. Yeah.
That HUD information is really helpful
field and ACS is low to moderate income.
And I think that's what he's saying, is it's not an ACS field, it's a HUD data source, so it may not mesh with.
We can look into that.
I just know from experience, that we've looked at it in terms of environmental justice, we look at low income areas, and we've looked at both ACS, census property data, as well as the low to moderate HUD data.
Okay.
Just to give you this confirmation, you're not relying just on the one data source.
That makes sense.
If it's not feasible, then that's understandable.
Okay.
Is there anything for going back to past years, so looking at growth within
Yeah.
tracks?
Yeah, good question. So we have downloaded all of the 5-year estimate data from, I believe, 2011 to 2019. Right now, we're only showing 2019, but we have discussed with James and Ryan the possibility of adding, like a 10-year comparison page or something along those lines. We just haven't hammered out the details yet, but I think we're working into that direction.
And then for 2020 census, will it go directly into this, or will it take a little bit of work once we get?
Yeah, I think that we would just replace the 2019 data with 2020 data when that becomes available. And we're expecting that the 2020 data to become available this month, but we need to look it out a little bit.
Yeah.
But it would replace this, yeah. We'd be displaying the most recent data.
Caroline, there was a question about how often the information can be updated regarding inflation adjusted dollars. That was from the chat. I don't know.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, this data is just being taken directly from the census website. So the census had already put it into 2019 inflation adjusted dollars because this is the 2019 5-year estimate. So I'd imagine 2020 data would be in 2020 inflation adjusted dollars. So I think it would be about a year off from the most current, we would have said.
And one other thing to note, just to clarify for those who may not be familiar with census data, the American Community Survey data is released each year. And it's at a slightly lower level, or I would say a lower level of geographic detail than the full batch of census data that'll come out every 10 years. So this is a different data set. It won't be able to get down to the block or the block group level like census data can. So really the highest level of granularity would be this track level data that we're showing.
When you get the 2020 data, will we have access to that more block level stuff, or is it still just going to be the track?
So this dashboard is configured really only to work with that ACS data that comes out each year. We hadn't really made the choice to go after the full census data at the block level, just because that data only comes out every 10 years and the 2020 data hasn't fully come out yet. So we've been looking at 2010 data, which I don't know how useful that would be. So we focused on ACS for this one. I think the expectation is that 2020 census data will be released probably around the end of this calendar year. So that would provide a much higher level of granularity, but it wouldn't necessarily perfectly fit. You wouldn't just be as easy as throwing that data in this dashboard. Right? So there'd be more work required to work with that. But the ACS data, theoretically, as long as that data structure stays the same when that ACS data comes out each year, the idea would be that that data can be brought into this dashboard and the dashboard will update because it's still calling on those same fields that are standard for the ACS data that's published each year.
So when you say you're bringing the data into this dashboard, are you pulling separated tables or database tables from census, or are you going directly to their API? As soon as it's on the API, it can be.
We're not pulling from the API, just because this is yearly data. We're planning on kind of detailing the process of how to download the data and hit refresh, but it should be fairly simple year to year. So things don't change.
I've done that before. Once you get the hang of it,
Yeah.
it can be somewhat automatic, but it's not intuitive. It ain't.
Yeah, the idea here is, right now what we have been downloading are the CSV files.
Yeah.
On the census website for all of the tracks that would be part of the region. As a part of this project, we're scoped to put together sort of a dashboard maintenance document that would show how K-Tempo can maintain each of these tools and continue to download the data. We've been working with James and the team of K-Tempo to sort of set that data up on an internal K-Tempo SharePoint site so that it's housed completely within the K-Tempo server so that they'll have access to it.
Thank you. And just so everybody's aware, there is a link to this dashboard so you can get in there and look around, included in your packet on page 34. And if you're looking through there and you notice anything or have any recommendations, please feel free to reach out and let us know so we can get with Emily Horn on getting that resolved. Anything else? Well, thank you for coming out to show us. It's definitely different, you being here in person than virtual, but.
Very much enjoyed it back in person. Thanks for having us.
Ryan, I'd like to just thank them also. I was really excited about the transportation side of it, what you did last time. This kind of a tool makes planning so much easier and effective. So I'm really excited about this one. Thank you for doing it. You guys did a great job.
Nothing else? All right. You're more than welcome to stay if you want, or you can take off. Agenda item 10 is a discussion item regarding the FY21 annual project listing, which is also referred to as the APL. That's pages 36 through 52 in your packet. Each fiscal year, NPOs submit listings of all projects completed in the region during that fiscal year. The listing that's included in your packet includes added capacity maintenance and bridge projects. This is the report that has been submitted by K-Tempo to TXDOT for our annual project listing. That's been included for you to review. Of course, you don't have to review it all right now. Feel free to look at it at your leisure. If you have any questions, of course, you can reach out to staff. We've been working with TXDOT to get this finalized, and I believe it was actually sent to Federal Highways yesterday for review and approval. Any questions on that? The APL? Okay, seeing none. Move to agenda item 11, which is also a discussion item. This is regarding the FY21 annual expenditure report, or the APR. This is pages 54 through 80 in your packet. This is another requirement we have that every fiscal year we complete and submit to TXDOT. This is our expenditure report. Also, this is just for discussion. Feel free to review this almost 30-page document when you have time and ask us any questions you may have. We plan to bring this back every year, just not as an action item, but as an informational item, and to get maybe some feedback on areas where maybe improvements can be made, or answer any questions that the TAC or the policy board may have on any of the activities that we've done and reported in the APR. Any questions on the APR? None? Okay, seeing none, we will move to agenda item 12, which is regarding public input received through February 2022. James.
Thanks, Ryan. We have not received any new comments since the last meeting.
And agenda item 13 is member comments. And before we kick this off, I really should have done this in the staff update, but I figured everybody had probably already met her, but Connie is our new assistant director in planning. So I'd like everybody to welcome her. She's been here about 3 weeks now. So she is well versed and knows everything there is to know about the MPO, I'm sure. That being said, I will open it up for any member comments.
Hey, Ryan, this is Victor.
Yes, sir.
If y'all don't mind, I would like to give the TAC a quick update on project development. The projects that we're working on currently in TXDOT, MPO projects, kind of get everybody up to speed on what we're planning and working on at the moment. If I can have just a few minutes.
Yes, sir.
All right, I'm going to share my screen if that's okay.
Yes, let me give you presenter controls, Victor.
Okay. All right, can y'all see this?
Not yet.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So right now, our Waco district, we are about to go on a large contract procurement. It's going to consist of 4 major schematic, environmental, and PS&E design contracts for our district. 2 of those are going to be in Bell County, and this is probably the big one. This is the headliner anchor project for this procurement here. This is looking at the I-14 East expansion project. And what we are focusing on or trying to go for is within the new infrastructure bill that came out. I don't know if y'all are aware, but there was actually an amendment by Senator Ted Cruz and I believe another senator either in Mississippi or Alabama pointing out the importance of I-14, the Ports to Forts trail that they're working on. And of course, Waco District, Bell County specifically, is the only portion of I-14 in the whole nation, I believe, is within Bell County, and that's the portion we have from Coppers Cove to Belton there to I-35. So what we are going to go for is it's a design build prospect is what we're trying to get. And what you have shown here outlined in red, we're wanting to rebuild that whole segment to interstate freeway standards, hopefully chasing a design build project, which could take care of that whole portion at once. If you're not familiar, the portion that would run concurrently with I-35 would add an additional lane in each direction. We'd be looking at adding direct connects right here at the Loop 363 I-35 intersection, building this out to freeway standards through Loop 363 down to where Heidenheimer peels off the bypass for it, which is already freeway standards. And then on the other side of Heidenheimer, we'd have to do a little bit more work in addition to what we're already constructing to get to where we'd have access controlled facility down here. So what design build encompasses is typically we do what's called design bid build projects. And that is where all of the projects we've done, we've never done a design build project in our district. So the projects typically that we do in our district are, like I said, they're design bid build. We do a schematic and environmental, and then we go to what we call our PS&E, where we actually do detailed design plans and then let the project based on those design plans. But what we're chasing here, and the state does, I believe it's 3 design build projects, 3 a year statewide. And they're typically heavy duty projects. As you can see, we're estimating real rough 350 million total for this. But what it does is we get through the schematic phase, we go and get the right of way, move utilities as needed, then it goes directly to construction based off of the schematic. And in doing this, typically these are big projects. Like 2026, Austin is going to be doing a design build for I-35 that's $4 billion. Now, obviously, their MPO does not have $4 billion worth of funding to do it, but a lot of that money comes from the Category 12 Commission Discretion Fund. So that's kind of what we're hoping to do is try to peel some of that money away and come to this and be able to just take this whole project and get it done in one fell swoop, a design build. Now, having said that, that doesn't mean Cat 12 is going to fund everything on here. And we actually have a good bulk of the portion of this 190 and Loop 363 section already funded with Cat 4 funds. That's the district discretionary funding that comes through MPO boundaries. So we have a lot of that funded. It's in the UTP. The next thing we would need to focus on is getting some funding on this I-35 section. Currently, we have that estimated just this section. I believe it's close to like 260, 280 million. Of course, we wouldn't have to fund all of that, but we would have to put some kind of funding on there in order to lure the rest of the Cat 12 commission funds to come to this project. So that's the plan. We're going to start the procurement next month. I would imagine we'll have a contract executed probably around October, November, December timeframe, and they're going to start the schematic on this. And of course, if we don't get a design build project, then the goal that's listed out here is that we would look at trying to pick out little breakout projects where it's needed to eventually get piece by piece all of this built to interstate standards. As far as I-14 on the other side, we do have the Coppersville bypass project in play. It is funded and it should be going out in FY26 or sooner. If we can, we're going to push to try to let it sooner. But once we get this project complete and the Cove bypass project complete for the district and the counties within the MPO, we will have I-14 knocked out. So before I go to the next project, are there any questions on this specific project?
Victor, this is Jason, City Temple.
Yes, sir, Jason.
At what point do you anticipate doing some either public involvement or maybe city council workshops? I know we're going to have a lot of complicated moving pieces around that interchange with all the businesses at 35 and 363.
Absolutely. Yeah, and I think you're aware we did actually start a schematic on this section a couple years ago. Then COVID hit, the contract got old in the tooth, and we weren't really happy with the consultants that were working. So we let that expire, and now we're just going to look at this whole section. But as far as public involvement, we're going to have to start the schematic process, and there's going to have to show alternatives and different options at the different intersections. I think I-35 is probably going to be set in stone since we're probably going to have to widen out equidistant on both sides, except for where there might be some environmental impacts. But there's a lot of room to play in this section in Temple. So I would say once we start getting some of the alternatives laid out, which would need to be taken from some input from the city, then we can start having those discussions and look at what we need to see happen and what the city needs to see happen within this section. So you guys will definitely be in the loop on this, and we will take your input gladly.
Yeah, I mean, you know how to get a hold of me.
Absolutely.
Thank you, sir.
No problem. Any other questions and comments on this one?
Yes, David from Lampasas County, which falls under Brownwood, y'all, but we're still in the MPO. The bypass through Coppers Cove, so you're going to be ending Interstate 14 construction at 2657. Has there been any discussion with Brownwood about what their plans are going into Lampasas County, and how do we make, because that's still part of the MPO?
That's still part of the MPO, and I am in a lot of conversation with my counterpart in the Brownwood District, Jason Scantling. He's also on the TAC committee. And actually, we are looking at what we can do with this project. We have to make a few small minor changes on that end of the project just to accommodate what they're planning to extend further west. So we are looking at that. We're in conversation with them, and we're planning for that as well.
So but right now, all of the current planning ends at 2657 at the bypass?
It goes just a little bit beyond that. We'll have to tie back into existing lanes on the other side. But yeah, there's a few connection points that we're looking at modifying just to help them with their continuation going further west. All right. The next one, that's a Waco MPO project. Y'all aren't interested in that. But this is the next project in Bell County. This is FM 93. It's in Belton. It's a Belton-sponsored project from State Highway 317 to Wheat Road. This is another one we're going to get on board on this same procurement. They're going to do the schematic, the environmental, and the PS&E for this. It's going to include the urban section on this side of 121 on the east, and then the rural section on the west side of 121. It's estimated to be about $20 million. I believe it is funded and in the UTP currently with CAT $2. So that'll be the next one we begin work on. Any questions on this one? Okay. And then finally, I don't have a little white page to show y'all, but there's another project. We already have the schematic and environmental on it. So this first portion of 121 is currently under construction. This is another Belton-sponsored project where we're taking the 2 lanes of 121 and going to a 4-lane divided. We have a schematic that goes from 439 all the way around to I-35. We've actually purchased right away throughout this whole section. Next thing we'd have to do is move utilities, but we're not going to have to procure it because we can use what's called an indefinite deliverable existing contract within TXDOT. So what we're going to do is the next portion of this Belton sponsored project is going to be the phase 2 of 121, also widening from 2 to 4 lanes divided. Like I said, we have a schematic, so and we've worked with Belton so far. We're just going to get another consultant on board to begin the PS&E because this is another highly ranked project within the MTP. And I believe it's going to be next, or one of the next ones coming up on the list to be funded. So we're going to go ahead and be proactive about that. And then eventually, further down the road, another Belton sponsored project we need to look at is this extension of 121 from I-35 to 436, which I believe is also pretty high ranked on the MTP. So that's basically what we're looking at developing and working on within the MPO. And like I said, I just wanted to give you all an update on where we're at and where we stand. So any questions on any of those projects? Okay, that's all I had. Thank y'all for your time.
Thank you, Victor. All right, are there any other member comments? None? Okay, seeing none, we will adjourn the meeting. Thank you, everybody.